Autorig Pro offers a robust and versatile face rig. Stick around if you want to learn how you can rig any humanoid or animal character face with it. We'll go over all options in the face rig, and by the end of this video, you'll be an expert in it. So here's the plan. We are going to rig this human character using the automatic smart features. This is something I already covered in my extensive human rigging video, but this time we'll focus a lot more on the face. I'll go over the rig controls that we get by default, and then we are going to go through every single reference bones option and learn what face features can be customized. Before we get started, make sure that you have the latest version of Autorig Pro, which you can get from your downloads on Blender Market. Just grab the Autorig Pro latest file, then install and activate Autorig Pro. If you want to buy Autorig Pro, you may be able to get it at a discount right now. This is time sensitive. I'll release this video on July 25th, and only on July 25th and 26th, you can get 25% off by using this coupon code on Blender Market or Gumroad. I'll also have it in the description box so that you can just copy and paste it. Blender Market also has a couple of regular sales each year. I'll list them on screen now. Check out the description box for the latest details. And a quick overview of the character we'll be rigging. It is a CC attribution model by Kayoz. Thank you for making it available. I made some slight modifications fusing some meshes together. So we have the clothing, below it there is the body, including the face. Then we have some hair and facial hair and eyelashes. And here is what's important. I have the left eye and the right eye as a separate object. You can also join the two eye meshes into a single object. That is also acceptable. Then we have the teeth, upper teeth and lower teeth as a single object. If you like, you can separate the upper teeth and the lower teeth, and that will actually make the binding process a little bit easier. But here I'm going to keep them as one object, and I'll show you a little problem that we'll have and how to solve it. And then we have a separate tongue object. So having separate eye objects, teeth objects, and a tongue object can help with the rigging process. I'll unhide everything, select all meshes, go to ARP, go to Smart Mode and get selected objects, and go for full body. The colors changed a little bit, but that is okay. I'll add the neck, chin, shoulders, wrists, spine root, and ankles. And then I'll add the facial bones, which is the focus of this video. Now X-ray is enabled, maybe I enabled it, so disable it. And actually I'll go to object mode, select these face lines and shift select the face and then press Shift H so that I only see the face. Then I'll go back to the face lines and edit mode and start aligning. So first I'll select the eye and make it smaller and just align it to the eye shape. This is the tip of the nose, the top of the nose. Then we have the mouth. Place the mouth corner at the corner. And then I'll enable shaded mode and I'll place the rest of the lip dots in the middle of the lip. Something like this. This is the ear. I'll align it something like this. Make sure that none of these dots go out of the mesh. That will produce an error. Then I'll align the brows. And this line is the cheek. It can create a cheek puff. So align it with the cheeks of the character. Let me check the chin, looking good. And I can press OK. And now my Go button is grayed out. I'll press Alt-H. I guess Autorig Pro wasn't happy that I hid some objects. And now the Go button will be fine and I'll press it. That created our basic rig. Even the fingers are well aligned, but in this video I won't be focusing on the body at all. I'll just focus on the face. If you need information about the body alignment and rigging and binding, then watch my previous video on human rigging. So now you should take a look at the face and see if anything is misaligned. In this case, I noticed that the ears are a bit misaligned. So I'm going to grab them and hide the head bone for a second, and then I'll align them with the ear. Something like this is fine. I'll press Alt-H to unhide the head and press Match to Rig. Now I can select the rig and box select over all character meshes, go to Skin, and I'm ready to bind the character to the rig. For this particular model, I'm going to disable split parts, because all of this hair is actually hair cards. These are hundreds, if not thousands, of objects. Split parts actually splits all meshes into individual objects if they're not connected. So with this model, that will create thousands of models, and that will take a lot of time. So again, select the rig, select all meshes, and press bind. Ignore this message, you will most likely not get it, but if you do get it, just press OK. We get a message that there was a problem with the binding and a suggestion to enable the scale fix option. I'll press OK. So now if I go to pose mode, my character will be deformed by the rig. Now we're focusing on the face. And if I try rotating the head, you'll see that the scalp hair and facial hair do not move with the face. That is fine, we're going to fix this in a second. So I'll just hide the hair for a second. But notice how the face is mostly rigged fine. Even the teeth and the tongue are rigged. That is because we specified the eyes, teeth, and tongue objects in the smart rigging process. There are some problems, such as some of the lower teeth not moving with the jaw, but we are going to fix this soon. I'll unhide the hair, and let's quickly fix that first. The hair wasn't weighted because these hair cards are very difficult to weight. This is more of a Blender problem, not AutoRig Pro problem. But anyway, the easiest way to fix that is to select the face, which is weighted fine, then shift select the hair, go to weight paint mode, choose transfer weights, set source layer to by name, and the rest of the options are fine, but you may want to switch mapping to nearest face interpolated. Now the hair will move with the face, so let's do the same thing for the facial hair. Select the face, shift select the facial hair, weight paint mode, weights, transfer weights, and now these settings are already set. So that is it. The beard will also deform with the face. Now let's fix these teeth. I'll select them, go to edit mode, and press L as I hover over each mesh. Then I'll find the teeth bot X vertex group under data and click assign. And that's it. The teeth will move with the jaw. If you notice that the lips are not quite smooth, as is the case here, you can select your rig and then the face, go to weight paint mode, and then Alt, Shift and click on all of these lip bones. Now go to Weights, Smooth, choose Selected Pose Bones, and I'll increase the iterations to 3. And notice the difference that made. This is without and this is with smoothing. Anyway, now we have things working. So let's try to go over the face rig controls and find out what they do. I'll go to pose mode and let's start from top to bottom. Here we have this brow control, which controls the whole brow. And then we have individual brow controls, which will move a small portion of the brow. By the way, if you go to rig and edit reference bones, this bone here defines the position of the brow control. And depending on where you place it, it will have a slightly different effect on the brow, especially when rotating it, because the point of rotation has changed. Then we have the upper eyelid control, which can open and close the eye. Here some work on the weights would be necessary, but the blink does work. Then we have small eyelid controls, which allow us to move small portions of the eyelid. And this is the bottom eyelid control. We have this eye master control, which allows us to move the whole eye and even scale it and rotate it. This is for non-realistic cartoony effects. We have another control which can scale the eye, the actual eyeball, down or up. And then we have this special control, which is specifically meant for cartoony characters that have a highlight in the eye. But for realistic characters, you generally will not use it. However, when I move this control, notice that the temple is moving. So to fix this, I'll select the rig, shift select the face, go to weight paint mode, and actually I have to enable the deform bones, the deform collection for the rig, then shift select the face, go to weight paint mode, enable X-ray, and here you'll find this little bone. And now I'll go to tool, enable auto normalize and symmetry settings, switch to add, and because I'm using Blender 4, I can just control click where I see weights and remove them all. And now I may want to transfer the weights for the hair again. Let's keep going. Next we have this eye target, which the eyes are looking at. So by just moving it, you will control what the character is looking at. And we also have individual eye controls. This will only affect the left eye and only the right eye. You can also place these in the middle for a crossed eye effect. We also have ear controls. You can move them, scale them, or rotate them. Here is the cheek puff control. If I enable X-ray, it will be easier to see. So I can scale it, and that will create the cheek puff effect. It is a little bit too strong, so I can shift select the face, go to weight paint mode, alt click on this control here, and remove some influence, and also hold shift and smooth the influence. Now I'm going to transfer the weights for the facial hair again. And here's the cheek puff. I think it can be improved, but let's keep going. Next we have the mouth. It has individual controls which give you fine control over small sections of the mouth, but you also have these corner controls which you can just move to create a smile. And the great thing about AutoRig Pro is that these controls just work. It is very easy to create a good looking smile. Just keep in mind that in a smile, the mouth kind of gets wider and it goes up, but it also moves back a little bit. You can also easily create a frown. So very nice controls out of the box. We have these controls for rolling the lips. They currently do nothing. We are going to get to this in a second. And by the way, when you create a smile, here you also have this additional control which can help make the smile even more believable by moving the muscles in this part of the face. We have a very important jaw control which you can select and just press G to move, and that will open the mouth. Again, this control is really nice. It just works. With other face rigs such as Rigify, you kind of have to fight it and tweak it, but AutoRig Pro just works, which I really like. I will hide the deform bones. And so in here we also have the tongue controls, which you can rotate and also move. There is even a control for the teeth. And finally we have some chin controls. This one doesn't do much right now, so let's shift select the face, go to weight paint mode, alt and click on this control, and give it a little influence over the chin, and now it will move the chin. And I'll have to reset the weights for the facial hair. Oh, and I forgot the nose controls. These are the default controls that we get with the AutoRig Pro face rig, but now let's see what we can customize. Before we get into the customizations, let me mention addons.cgdive.com. This is CGDive's directory for Blender resources, and my goal is to organize Blender add-ons in logical categories. For example, AutoRig Pro is found under rigging, auto-rigging, and you may be surprised to find out that there is a lot more than Rigify and AutoRig Pro when it comes to auto-rigging. Under rigging face rigging, you'll find the Toon Eye Prep add-on, which is actually an extension for AutoRig Pro specifically designed to make the rigging of cartoony eyes easy. And under animation, you may find animation add-ons that you can use together with your AutoRig Pro rig. And there are other categories for some of the most challenging areas of scene creation in Blender. So check out addons.cgdive.com. Now back to the video. I'll go to ARP and press Edit Reference Bones. Select the head and click on Limb Options. So the AutoRig Pro face system is actually an optional part of the head limb. If you disable the facial button, that will actually remove the entire face. I won't do this because if I disable and then re-enable the face, it will not be aligned with my character anymore. But in case you want to remove the face, just disable this button and press OK. In the latest version of AutoRig Pro, the facial options are now split into eyes, mouth, and others sections. In previous versions, we used to have a large list of options, so this is much neater now. Let's start with the eyes options. First, we have the ability to remove the eyebrows. I can disable both, or I can just have one. Let's see what happens when we disable the right brow. The bones will disappear here, and if I match the rig, I will no longer have controls here. So let me enable this again. And to fix the alignment, I'll make sure that X symmetry is enabled and just select these bones on the left side. Tap G and click to confirm, and that will symmetrize the right brow bones. Back to the limb options for the head. Next we have the eyebrow masters option. If I enable it and press OK and match the rig, that will give me these two additional master controls at each side of the brow. So before we just had individual brow controls, but now we have these master controls at each side. Next we have soft eyebrows. Before we enable it, let's go back to the rig. Soft eyebrows will have to do with the behavior of this master control for the brow. And actually I can see that these brow bones can be a little bit deeper here. I'll match the rig. And I'll have to reskin. So now we have this control which moves the entire brow. If I enable soft eyebrows and match the rig, now the behavior of this master control is a bit different. It creates a fall off where it affects this bone fully, and then there is a fall off towards the edge of the brow. I created a little test animation. So if I disable soft eyebrows again and match the rig, you'll see that the animation looks different. And we have some options for this soft eyebrow. If you set soft rigid to 1 and generate, that will actually disable the soft effect. So it will be exactly the same as not having soft eyebrows. So personally, I would keep that to 0 or to a low value. Linear controls the fall off that we noticed with soft eyebrows. When you set it to 1, it will be fully linear and -1 will be a very soft fall off, and 0 is somewhere in between. Here I'm going to edit the results from a value of -1, 0, and 1 so that you can see them next to each other. Next we have options to remove the left eye and the right eye. So if you don't want eye controls for your character, you can remove them. Or if you have a Cyclope character with just one eye, then you can remove one eye. I'm going to re-enable it and snap the bones. Next we have eyelid twig controllers. Let's enable it, press OK, and match to rig. That gave us these additional controls that currently do not do much. I'll go back to edit reference bones. They are actually these bones here in the reference bones. And you should place them somewhere in the fleshy part of the eyelid, just below the lower eyelid and just above the upper eyelid. Then when you match the rig, you can select your rig, then shift select the character, go to weight paint mode, alt and click on this bone, and paint some weights for it. And now when you move it, it's going to displace this part of the eyelids. So it is an additional eyelid control. Let's go back to the facial options. Next we have eyelid amount, and by default it is set to 3. So if you look at the bones for each eye, we have the corner bones, which are aligned with the corner of the eye. And then for each eyelid, we actually have 4 bones that align with it. But only 3 of them will become the deformed bones for the eyelid. And they have the 0, 1, and then the next one has 0, 2, and the last one 0, 3 in their name. And the other one, which is just called eyelid top ref, is a special bone which helps with the alignment of the eye. So if we go to the limb options, and actually I have to select the head, limb options, and increase the eyelid amount to 4, we're going to have 4 deformed bones for the eyelid. And as for the top ref and bottom ref bone, try to align them with the center of the eye and make them point in the same direction that the eye is looking. Now if I match the rig, I'll have more control bones for the eye. Some of them are not yet weighted, so I can go to weight paint mode and add some weights, or I can bind again. Back to the options, the checkbox Update Transform defines what will happen if I change the eyelid amount here. If you disable it, then the existing bones will stay, but new bones will be added or some of the bones will be removed. In most cases, you will keep this on because you will have to do some alignment of the bones anyway. Just before releasing this video, a new version of AutoRig Pro was released, and it included a new face setting for the eyes, eyelid masters frequency. We'll have another example of this masters setting when we talk about the lips, but having a masters frequency of 1 means that masters are disabled. I have to set it to at least 2, press OK. Let's match the rig. And so we got these additional master controls which affect multiple of these individual eyelid controls. These could be even more useful with a very large eye, which has a lot of individual controls. Eye target distance defines the distance of the eye target. Let's see exactly what it is. I'll match the rig. And now I have this eye target, which, as we saw earlier, controls the direction of the eyes. And from the side view, it is around here. Now, if I go to Edit Reference Bones and increase the eye target distance, you'll see that it was moved to here. So I believe the value is in meters. So this is 1 meter from the head, and this is probably 2 meters, something like this. But anyway, the value of 1 is usually good for humans. When you're rigging other characters, especially ones with eyes on each side of the skull, then you may want to play with this value. Next we have the Align Eyelids option. Most of the time, just keeping this enabled works great, but let's try to understand what it does. If I match to rig now, and this option has to do with the alignment of the eyelid control. If I go to edit mode and tweak this bone, and then go back to pose mode, I can kind of realign it. But anytime I click match to rig, Auto Rig Pro will automatically align it the way it thinks is best. So if I disable the Align Eyelids option and match to rig, then I can go to edit mode for this control, and I can align its roll and its tail. However, the head will automatically be aligned by Auto Rig Pro. So I can move this, and I can control the roll by pressing Ctrl R. But now if I go to edit reference bones and match to rig, the orientation of this control will not be affected. So I guess this could be useful if you have a character with vertical eyes. But I'm having slight problems explaining this feature because honestly I've never used it in a practical scenario. So most of the time, just keep this option enabled. But if you ever feel like you need to manually tweak the alignment of the eyelid control, then keep this setting in mind. Next we have the eyelid speed factor. This has to do with how quickly the eye closes when I move the eyelid control. So now from the front view, it's actually almost perfect. When I move the control to this position, which is also about the level of the closed eye, then the eye is closed. If I edit the speed, let's make it slower, for example, and match to rig, then I'll have to move this control quite a bit more to close the eye. A value of 1 generally works great for humans, but with cartoony characters or characters with a large eye and so on, you may want to tweak this value. Let's move on to the mouth options. You can uncheck mouth, which would disable the entire mouth, which is fine in case your character doesn't have a mouth. I'm going to enable it again. Next we have the lips offset controller. This is a master controller for the entire mouth. I'll enable it, press OK, and now we'll have a new bone, which is kind of hidden under the jawbone. Let's just generate and see what happens. We're going to get this new control, which can move the entire mouth. But its positioning in edit reference bones determines its pivot point, which is very important. So let's try to select it. I'll go to wireframe mode, and that will allow me to select it more easily. So this is it. From the side view, I'm going to move it near the mouth. So for a human, I would position it something like this. Match to rig. And now we have the controller here. And we can scale it, rotate it, and move it. Could be great for cartoony effects. And again, this is the positioning for a human. For other types of characters, just play with the positioning of this bone until you get good results. Next we have lips roll constraints. Let's enable it. Match to rig. And now these controls, which didn't do anything until now, will roll the lips in and out. And this can be very important for lip sync and such. Some sounds are pronounced with the lips rolled in or out. So now we have these controls. The roll speed is the same as the speed factor for the eyelids. So how much do you need to move the controller before the lips are fully rolled in or out? Lips amount is how many bones you'll have for each quadrant of the lips. So currently it is 2. If I look from the front view, and I'll disable in front. So we'll always have lips bones at the center and at the edges. And then for each side of the upper lid and lower lid, right now we have 2 bones each. So this setting can give you more bones for each quadrant. For a human, 2 is just fine, but for cartoony characters and animals with a wide mouth, you may want a lot more lips. Keep in mind that I already have videos demonstrating how to add a face rig to animals. So far we have a fox, T-Rex and bird example. Lips master controller will insert master controllers between your lips bones. To demonstrate this, I'll actually have to increase the lips amount, and I'll set lips master frequency to 2 because 1 actually means disabled. I'll also tick update transform and press OK. Now we'll have 4 lips bones, so let's snap them using face snapping. I'll enable snapping and just snap these bones quickly. Now I'll match the rig, update my skinning, and go to pose mode. And now I have these master controls for the lips, which moves a couple of regular lips controls with a bit of an offset. We have 4 regular lips controls for each quadrant of the lip, and because we set the master frequency to 2, we made 1 master for every 2 regular controls. So if I set the master frequency to 4, it should give me just 1 master control for each quadrant. This can definitely be useful even for a human, but it becomes even more useful with very wide mouths. The linear setting controls the softness of the fall-off of the master control. So 0 means soft fall-off and 1 means linear fall-off. Here is what we get with a linear fall-off. The controls will be offset in a linear way. I'll set it back to 0. Next is the soft lips option, which is enabled by default, so you have seen its effect already. If I match the rig, let me transfer the weights really quickly. But the soft lip effect is always visible when you move the mouth corner. Notice how there is a smooth fall off here. And also when you open the jaw and move the jaw, notice the smooth fall off all across the mouth. And for realistic and semi-realistic characters, that is exactly what you want. But for other types of characters, such as cartoon, anime, and animals, you may need to tweak some of these soft lip options. It's really on a case-by-case basis, and there is some personal preference involved as well, so my goal is to show you what these settings do. The first thing we'll try is to just disable soft lips. Now moving the corner control literally just moves the corner of the mouth. And when I open the jaw, this corner does not automatically move and there is no fall off at all in the lips. This looks kind of bad on this character, but it could be exactly what you need in some types of cartoony characters. I will enable these soft lips back on, and notice that when I disable them, all of these options are grayed out, which means that they are sub-options of the soft lips setting. So first we have linear Y and linear Z options. We already saw example of the linear setting here for soft eyebrows, so this will be similar. -1 will mean very soft fall off, 0 would still be soft, whereas 1 will be linear. And we have linear Y and linear Z. This has to do with the lips corner behavior. If we look at the tooltip, Y is the up-down movement, and Z is the sideways movement. So let's set both of these to -1 and press OK and generate. Now this kind of has the effect of disabling soft lips. I expected it to have at least some effect on the close by bones. But if I keep linear Y to -1 and Z to 0, then we'll have soft lips effect when I move the control sideways, but in the up and down movement there will be no softening effect. I'll set both of these to 1. And now we have this linear effect. I'll set these back to 0. Limit corners defines how many lips bones are affected by the soft lips effect. 0 means no limit. So let's generate. And when I move the mouth corner, notice that all controls, even this one, is affected slightly. If I set the limit to 2, that should mean that only the first and second control will be affected. And that is exactly what happens. I'll set it back to 0. Linear jaw setting will have the same effect as linear Y and linear Z, but for the jaw movement. So if I set this to -1, I can basically disable the soft lips effect just for the jaw, but it will still be enabled for the mouth corner. Okay, this is a little bit different from completely disabling soft lips. The corner still moves with the jaw, but it doesn't move the rest of the bones with it. If I set it to 1, then we'll have this linear behavior of the lips controls. I'll set it back to 0, which is ideal for my character. And limit jaw is similar to limit corners. It will limit how many lips bones will be affected by the soft lips effect when the jaw is moved. So let's set it to 2. And so I expect that these 2 bones will be affected and these will not. And that is what happens. These 2 controls will not be affected. Let me set this to 0. Next we have soft lips visual only. This is a bit of a legacy feature. In the past, AutoRig Pro did not have the nice lips controls that it has now. So it relied on shape keys to make the mouth deformation look nice. And this setting helps with this process somehow. I haven't used it, so you'll forgive me for skipping this one. For people who want to learn more about it, there is an old tutorial by the AutoRig Pro developer. I'll share it in the video description. Let's move on to sticky lips. And sticky lips is also part of the soft lips system. So if you disable soft lips, you won't be able to enable sticky lips. Let's enable it and press OK. Match to rig. So what happens now is that if I push the jaw upwards, it will actually push the entire lip area up. And this is definitely an interesting effect, and it creates a natural chewing motion. In the final rig, there are additional settings for this effect. Under Tool, Rig Main Property Settings, if you select the jaw, lips follow controls how strongly the upper lip follows the lower lip. Okay, back to ARP. We also have an offset value for the sticky lips. Let's play with it. The positive offset value will allow the lower lips to penetrate a little bit into the upper lips. Whereas if I set this to a negative value, that will actually push the lips by default, which is definitely not what we want. So let's set it back to 0 because I think that is how it is intended to work. We also have a jaw speed factor. So this is the same as the roll speed and also eyelid speed. This means how much do I need to move the jaw control in order to open or close the mouth. 1 is great for this kind of standard character. If you have a character or an animal with a large mouth, you may want to decrease the speed. Otherwise, just a small movement of the control will open the mouth quite a lot, and that can be hard to control. So here I reduced the speed, and so I have to move the control quite a bit to open the mouth. I'll set it back to 1. We can unlock the jaw on the y-axis. So without it, I can move the jaw sideways and up and down, but not forward. If I enable this option, I can move the jaw forward as well. And this can be realistic because when the jaw opens very wide, it also comes forward very slightly. This is an anatomical fact. We have options to disable the teeth and the tongue. So if you don't want any teeth or tongue, please disable them. And finally, we come to others. The nose option will disable the nose controls and deforming bones. Let's enable them back. And I'll have to align them. Then we have the cheeks, which were these controls for creating the cheek puff effect, and also one control around here, which can move this part of the flesh, for example, to emphasize a smile. And we also have the option to disable the chins, which are these 2 chin controls in the chin area. We saw their effect at the beginning of the video. And with that, we went over all of the facial settings for the AutoRig Pro face rig. Let's finish this lesson with a couple of additional tips that did not make it into the main video. AutoRig Pro offers a special way to create a perfect blink. Let's say that you have rigged your character and it behaves kind of well, but when you try to close the eye, it just doesn't happen perfectly with the eyelid control alone. So you'll have to grab these individual controls and rotate them or move them. You can go to AutoRig Pro, Rig Tools, and then Pose Tools, and you have the blink pose feature. What you need to do is use the eyelid control to close the eye as best as possible, and then grab the individual controls and tweak them a little bit until you get your perfect blink pose. Once you're happy with the blink, select the eyelid control again and click Add Blink Pose. And now by just moving this eyelid control, you'll actually get your perfect blink. This happens thanks to action constraints that are added on the controls. And something else that you can do is close the eye halfway and notice any problems. In this case it looks fine, but let's say that I need to tweak it a little bit. So I'll tweak the control slightly, select the eyelid control again, and click the blink pose button again. This time I'll get this menu and it will ask me if I'm adding in between pose. I am, so I'll press OK. And now closing the eye will first go to the in between pose and then to the full closed eye. So if I need to tweak this eye, I can tweak it a little bit, select the eyelid control and again add blink pose. This time I'll say that I want to tweak the closed pose and press OK. When you add a face to your character using the smart features, the ears will be added automatically, but the ears are actually not part of the face. Here I have a human rig without a face. I'll go to Edit Reference Bones, select the head, limb options and enable facial. and there are no ears. So what you need to do is add limb ears and align them any way you like. And by the way, the ears have limb options of their own. The options are rather simple, just how many ear bones there will be. So let's say there's 4. And this one as well. And now I can set droopy ears, for example. The ears will be automatically parented to the head, so I can just match the rig. And here are my special ears. I did my best to give you a comprehensive overview of AutoRig Pro's face rig, but to become really proficient with it, you need practice. So don't forget that this course already features detailed practical examples of face rigging of various characters. Also check out AutoRig Pro's documentation page for the most up-to-date list of features.